First story. I excluded my entitled son from my family trip with my new wife and our daughter after he failed a test. We enjoyed our vacation so damn well without his sulking. And then he failed again intentionally, saying he doesn't matter in the family, so I grounded him. Now I've lost everything. I 39M have full custody of my son 14M. He's from my first marriage, and he's lived with me and my wife 37F for the past 9 years, along with our daughter 11F. So yes, we're a blended family, but I've always made a point to treat them equally when it comes to daily life, expectations, discipline, and rewards. That said, I'll be honest, my son's been a source of constant stress. And I say that not as a detached father, but as someone who has genuinely tried to guide him tutoring sessions, progress checks, meetings with teachers, even therapy at one point when he was acting out in 6th grade. The kid's smart, every teacher says so, but he's lazy. He half-arses assignments, turns in things late, and constantly thinks rules are flexible if he can argue his way around them. I work in finance. I don't do well with flexible rules. The latest issue. He flunked his last 2 maths tests. Not borderline scores either, we're talking low 50s. So now he's on a retake list basically. Here they give one more shot to bring the average up to avoid being flagged for mandatory summer school. That third chance exam is scheduled for Friday, which just happens to fall on a long weekend we've been planning to take advantage of. The holiday is on a Thursday, and most schools and companies, mine included, take the Friday off to make it a 4-day break. Months ago, my wife found this great beach resort package with an extended deal. Rooms were limited, and the price was slashed if you paid in advance. So we booked early. Non-refundable, but worth it for the deal we got. It was meant to be a little mental reset for all of us. And I say all of us loosely, because the reality is my son's been dragging the mood of this household for a while. He sulks, he picks fights with his sister, and he shuts down every time we try to talk about future goals. His school reports say he's withdrawn and defensive. At home, it feels like living with a roommate who hates everyone but expects to be served dinner and driven around. I'll admit it, I'm resentful. I work hard. I'm up at 6 a.m., I handle the bills, and I shuttle the kids when needed. I show up to parent-teacher meetings. My wife's a school teacher, so she does her part, but I do mine too. And the one thing I ask from a 14-year-old, literally the only thing, is to take school seriously. That's your job at that age. When the math scores came in, and we were told about the retake, I already had a sinking feeling. I called the resort. They said we could push our stay to a later date, but it would still cost a rebooking fee and lose the holiday discount. We'd be moving the entire trip just to accommodate a test he only has to take because he didn't prepare the first time around. That felt like rewarding failure. So I made the decision. The trip goes on, just minus one person. My wife wasn't thrilled, but she agreed it was fair. Our daughter was bummed that her brother wouldn't be joining, but honestly, she was also excited. She's been asking for just mom and dad time for a while now. As for my son, we told him he'd be staying with my parents, his grandparents, for the weekend. They live 15 minutes away, they're retired, and they've always had a decent relationship with him. They can help make sure he gets to the test on Friday morning. I even told them I'd pay for food and expenses during that time. But when I sat my son down to tell him, he lost it, like a full-blown shouting match. "You're leaving me here like I'm being punished." I told him it was a consequence. Not a punishment, a direct result of his choices. I said, if you had done your work like you were supposed to, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. He accused me of favoring his sister, saying if it were her who had a test, I'd move mountains to accommodate it. That stopped me in my tracks for a second, not because it was true, but because of how confidently he said it, like it was a fact. But the reality is, she wouldn't be in this situation. She actually studies. She doesn't treat school like it's a joke. This wasn't some surprise test that blindsided him. We knew about the maths units. I checked in during the weeks leading up. He said he had it handled. The failure is 100% on him. I didn't yell. I didn't ground him. I just said, you'll stay with grandma and grandpa, take your test, and we'll see you Sunday evening. What followed were days of silent treatment, slammed doors, and snide remarks like, enjoy your perfect little family vacation. I've been biting my tongue, but every part of me wants to say, maybe if you acted like part of the family, you'd be coming. Now here's where I might be the arsey hole, or at least, people are making me feel like I am. My parents were polite about it, but said they thought we should have waited and done the trip another weekend. One coworker flat out told me, I can't imagine doing that to my kid, no matter what. But then again, They've never had to raise a kid who actively resents authority and dodges responsibility like it's a full-time job. And again, it's not like I'm tossing him to the streets. He's staying with loving grandparents, eating homemade food, sleeping in a comfortable bed, and getting a chance to redeem his grades. I'm not canceling a long-awaited trip that the rest of us deserve just to coddle someone who's been pushing every boundary this year. He's 14. Actions meet consequences. That's how the real world works. The night before we left, my son barely spoke to us. He stayed in his room, only came out for dinner, barely touched it, and muttered, "Whatever," when my wife reminded him of the test time. My wife tried one last time to soften things by telling him we'd bring him something back from the trip. He didn't answer. Personally, I didn't think he deserved a souvenir for failing twice and making the house tense for a week. But I kept quiet. Friday morning, I dropped him at my parents' house before we hit the road. My mom gave me the look that disappointed, quiet, judgmental stare and said, "He feels like he's being abandoned." I told her he's being held accountable. My dad stayed neutral, but asked if I was sure I couldn't push the trip. I said no. I wasn't dragging my wife and daughter into another week of waiting around for his mistake to play out. The drive to the resort was peaceful. No arguments over music. No sighing teenager in the backseat, acting like being seen with his family is torture. My daughter chatted about the water slides she'd seen on the resort website. My wife eventually relaxed too. At one point, she even said, "I know this sounds wrong, but this is calmer without him." That said a lot. At the resort, it honestly felt like a reset. We swam, ate good food, and walked on the beach at night. My daughter had both of us fully present, which she rarely gets because usually one of us is dealing with him checking if he's done his homework, asking why he's ignoring chores, breaking up sibling arguments. He usually starts by mocking her or calling her annoying. Saturday night, after my wife and daughter went to bed, I had a drink on the balcony and thought about him. Not in a guilty way, but in a frustrated one. I thought about how many times I'd defended him to teachers, how many he has potential conversations I'd sat through, and how many second chances I'd already given before this. I thought about how quickly he threw out accusations of favoritism instead of taking responsibility. It hit me that deep down. I'm angry because I feel like I'm constantly dragging him through life while he resists every pull. My parents texted updates. He took the test. No complaints. Ate dinner. Watched TV. Didn't seem upset after the initial day. That actually confirmed to me that I'd made the right call. If he had been devastated, maybe I'd question it. But clearly, he calmed down quickly once he realized it wasn't changing anything. We came back Sunday evening. The atmosphere shifted right when we picked him up. My daughter excitedly talked about the slides and Buffett. He sat quietly in the back, staring out the window, answering only in short replies when my wife asked about the test. At home, he went straight to his room. Later, he made a comment like, "Must have been nice not dragging dead weight along." I told him if he knows that, then he knows what needs to change. Monday morning, he barely looked at us before school. My wife said maybe we should talk it through with him more gently. I said I already did before the test, when I gave him the choice to prepare or fail again. I'm not negotiating consequences. Now here's why I'm here. Since we got back, he's been distant, but not explosive. The problem is other people's reactions. My parents still think I was too harsh. A coworker literally called me cold. My brother, who has no kids, said I'm creating trauma. My wife hasn't turned against me, but I can tell she's torn. She admits he needed consequences, but she also wishes we had found a middle ground, though she couldn't define what that would be. I don't regret going. The trip was good for the rest of us. My daughter got a version of me that wasn't worn down. My wife actually laughed more in 3 days than she has in months. I didn't wake up every morning already bracing for another argument over missing assignments. I don't feel guilty because I don't think holding a 14-year-old accountable is cruelty. I think shielding him would have reinforced that it's okay to fail and still get rewarded with a vacation. If he wants to be treated like part of the family during rewards, he needs to act like part of the family during responsibilities. But I'm being told I went too far by excluding him from a family experience. Some say I could have taken him and made him spend time studying at the hotel. But honestly, that would have dragged everyone down again and turned what was supposed to be a break into another tension-filled obligation. So here I am. I made a call. I stand by it. He failed. He faced a consequence. We enjoyed our trip. He took his test without drama. Life goes on. But Reddit, am I Ada for not postponing the trip for him and going without him? Comments. Comment 1. YTA. And here's why: not because of the decision itself, but because of how effing transactional your whole approach to parenting is. Your kid failed math, sure, but your answer to that was, trip revoked, enjoy the grandparents. Not, let's sit down and talk about why this happened. Not, what support do you need? Hell, you didn't even seem curious why he bombed 2 tests. You just stamped lazy on his forehead and moved on. And don't pretend this was about fairness. If this was your daughter, you wouldn't be writing this post. You've clearly checked out emotionally with your son. Every word here paints him like a burden. That's going to bite you in the arse when he's 17 and wants nothing to do with you. Also, your wife saying it was calmer without him should have been a wake-up call. Not that you were justified, but that your whole family unit is cracked, and you're mistaking peace for avoidance. Parenting's not about peace. It's about connection. And you've lost it. Comment 2. I'm leaning soft YT here. I'm a middle school teacher, so I see this dynamic a lot. Here's the thing: consequences are fine. But the way you delivered this one, it felt more like rejection than discipline. You didn't just ground him or make him do extra tutoring, you excluded him from a family trip and then went on to talk about how peaceful it was without him. That's not just enforcing rules. That's sending a loud message. Life is better without you. And I think you know he heard it that way. Also, I don't buy the "he's lazy" excuse at face value. A lot of kids disengage when they're feeling unwanted or hopeless, especially in blended families where they feel like the odd one out. You say you've treated them equally, but if he's perceiving favoritism, you have to at least examine that. Kids often pick up on micro differences: how many times you hug one, how you talk to one, how quickly you forgive one versus the other. You didn't need to reschedule the trip. But you also didn't need to take the scorched earth route and make it a reward versus punishment moment. There were other options that wouldn't have left him feeling like an outsider in his own home. Comment 3. NTA, but holy hell, you're playing a long game of "I told you so" with this kid. You're not wrong. Consequences matter. If school's his only job, and he's failing, then yeah, something's got to give. He wasn't banned from fun for no reason. He earned that outcome. I'm the oldest of 5, and I saw my siblings get away with murder growing up because no one wanted to hurt their feelings. Result? 2 of them are still struggling as adults because they never learned to get their SHT together. What stood out is that you did give him support, tutoring, therapy, and second chances. You didn't toss him aside. But I also hear this quiet, steady loathing building, and that's where you should be careful. Discipline can work without alienation, but the vibe I get is that you don't even like your son anymore. That's the slippery slope. So yeah, NTA in this situation. But if this becomes a pattern, punishing through exclusion, you'll lose him completely. Then it won't matter what grades he gets. Update. So, I posted here because I thought this sub was about getting honest takes, not just validation, not just Reddit mob dogpiling, but perspective. I explained everything clearly. No name calling. No lying. I got maybe 5% thoughtful replies, and the rest? You're abusive. You traumatized your kid. You're a monster. One person told me I was creating generational trauma. Another accused me of enjoying hurting my son. Absolute bullshit. I didn't come here to be coddled. But I also didn't expect people to ignore facts. I didn't beat the kid. I didn't throw him out. I left him with loving grandparents for 3 days, so the rest of the family could still enjoy a long-planned trip, a trip that only became complicated because he failed 2 maths tests. But apparently, saying that out loud makes me emotionally neglectful. Anyway, here's your update since everyone wanted consequences. A few days after the trip, we got results. He failed the retake. Badly. Teachers were stunned. They said he barely tried. One even said he left a full question section blank. I was pissed, obviously, but I didn't say anything. I figured he'd stew in his own disappointment. I was wrong. He went nuclear. Slammed doors. Didn't speak to anyone for days. Barely ate. I caught him in his room at 3 a.m. once playing video games on a school night. After failing the retake that could have saved his grade. I took the console and told him he was grounded. He stared me dead in the eye and said, "Why should I care? I already failed. What else can you ruin?" A few days later, my parents called. My son had gone to them directly after school without telling us. Told them he didn't want to live with me anymore. Said I was cruel and unfair, and that I left him behind like trash. My mum called it a cry for help. I called it what it was: dramatic manipulation. They told me that they were considering letting him stay for a while. At first I said no. Then my dad made a comment that pushed me over the edge. You seem more interested in punishing him than parenting him. That was it. I told them to go ahead. Let's see how they like dealing with his behavior 24/7. Except now, the real kicker, my wife. She's always tried to play middle ground, the patient voice, the let's talk it out buffer. But last week, she told me she'd gone behind my back and booked a therapy session for him. She drove him to it after school, just the two of them. She said she needed to hear what was really going on. She came home crying. She told me that for the first time, she actually listened to his side without jumping to defend me. He told her I'd been calling him lazy and useless for years, and I have said those things, yes. Not constantly, not cruelly, but during arguments. He told her he felt unwelcome in our home. That hit her hard. She said he admitted he'd stopped trying in school on purpose because there's no point when nothing I do makes a difference. I told her he's manipulating her, that he's playing victim because he got hit with consequences for the first time. She didn't agree. She accused me of emotionally isolating him and said I made the house feel like a minefield for him. Then came the real stab. You broke him. You punished failure with exclusion and called it parenting. I reminded her he's not her son biologically anyway, and that she's never had to be the one who dealt with the worst of it. That made her furious. She said she was his mother in every way that counted, the one who tried, who nurtured, who listened, who stood between us every time I lost patience. And I'll admit she has. She's been the emotional buffer. I thought she appreciated that I handled the hard stuff. Now she says I hid behind logic to avoid facing the damage I've done. Our daughter doesn't know the full story. We haven't told her that he might not be coming back anytime soon. She asked if her brother was mad at her. I told her no, but honestly, he hasn't said a single word to her since the trip. Not a text, not a call. The final blow came yesterday. My mom called and said they've decided they don't want me around for a while. She said I'm not welcome at their house, not until you figure out how to actually love your son. My dad agreed. My own parents, cutting me off over a kid they never had to parent full time. I've done everything, raised him since he was 5, dealt with the schools, paid for everything, managed the chaos, and now I'm the villain. So here I am. Wife barely speaking to me. Son is probably gone for good. Parents pissed. Reddit gloating. I still don't think I was wrong to go on that trip. I won't apologize for expecting effort. I won't reward failure. But if the cost of that is losing everyone else around me, maybe I need to rethink who I've been doing all this for. But I'll ask one last time. Ada for holding my son accountable when no one else would, even if it cost me everything else. Comments. Comment 1. This feels less like parenting and more like emotional accounting. You talk about effort like Roy. I put in X years of parenting. Therefore, I'm owed obedience, grades, and gratitude. But that's not how relationships work. Kids, especially ones with emotional baggage, aren't debtors. They don't repay you with perfection. Honestly, I don't think you're a monster. I think you're a deeply frustrated man who raised a kid he never fully bonded with. Maybe you thought love would come naturally, and when it didn't, you just fell back on rules. But your son doesn't need a manager. He needed a father. It's probably too late now. But therapy for you is the only way this doesn't end in total estrangement. You don't need Reddit to scream YTA. You need someone to help you unpack the wall you built between yourself and your own child before it calcifies completely. Comment 2. I don't care how many tests he failed. You don't emotionally exile your kid and expect applause. Your entire vibe screams, this kid was never what I wanted. And instead of owning that, you buried it under lectures about responsibility. You keep saying the trip wasn't a punishment. Yeah, no, it was. It's not about a beach resort. It's about being left out. You excluded him from family, not just fun. And he noticed. So did your wife. So did your parents. I'll say the quiet part loud. You treated your son like a mistake you couldn't return. And now that he's finally walked away, you're shocked he doesn't want to come back. YTA. And unless you make serious changes, this is the relationship you're stuck with. No son, no support, and no one to blame but yourself. Update. Figured I'd update because apparently this story is still floating around online every now and then, and I still get random messages calling me abusive or a monster. Some people even dug up my older comments to use as proof of narcissism. So here's the update all of Reddit apparently wanted to see. No, I didn't change. I didn't see the light. And I'm not going to write some redemption arc where I suddenly apologize and beg for forgiveness. If that's what you're expecting, stop reading. My son never moved back home. After that last blow-up where he failed the retake, and then tanked the rest of the semester on purpose. He went to live with my parents full time until we figured things out. Except figuring things out turned into my parents applying for legal guardianship because apparently I'm the problem. They started talking about stable emotional environments and damage control like I'd been beating him. After several tense weeks, I signed the paperwork because honestly, I was exhausted and tired of being painted as the villain while everyone else got to be saint nurturing angels. So yes, I legally gave guardianship to my parents. Before anyone jumps in with, "You abandoned your kid," no. I gave him what everyone claimed he needed: distance from my expectations. Congratulations to them for being the heroes. He cut contact with me immediately after. Blocked me on everything. No calls on my birthday, no texts, nothing over holidays. I sent him 2 messages early on, he left them on read. He now tells people I discarded him when he needed me most. He conveniently skips the part where he refused to study, refused help, failed everything, and then bailed the moment real consequences hit. And for everyone who said I broke him, explain this. My mom says he's laughing again, more open, and attending therapy regularly. But funny enough, he's still failing school, still bottom of his class, still avoids homework. And somehow that's still my fault, even though I haven't been near him in months. So either I did some permanent psychological branding, or maybe he actually just doesn't give a damn about school, and everyone's finally seeing I wasn't imagining it. Now, about my wife. She didn't leave right away. She tried to fix things. She begged me to keep trying therapy for myself, not for him. I went twice. The therapist clearly took her and my son's side, using phrases like emotional withdrawal and pattern of parental disapproval. I told my wife I wasn't paying to be lectured by someone who had already decided I was the abuser in the story. So I quit. After that, something shifted between us. She stopped defending me. She stopped making small talk. She watched me like she finally saw something she didn't want to acknowledge before. Eventually, she said she couldn't live with a man who refuses to see the harm he's done. We separated 3 months ago. She moved in with her sister and took our daughter. Which brings me to my daughter. She still talks to me, but less. She's more reserved now. She used to run to me after school, now conversation is limited to fine. School was okay, and yeah, I had lunch. When I ask if she wants to do something together, she usually says she already has plans with her mom. Oh, and the cherry on top. I found out through my cousin that my son has been spending time with my ex-wife. The same ex who lost custody because she couldn't provide a stable environment. Apparently they've reconnected. I saw a photo online of him with her at some school event, actually smiling. My mom says it's healing for him. All I see is that the moment he got distance from controlling dad, he ran to the woman who crashed her life when he was a toddler. If that's healing, then fine. My parents no longer speak to me unless it's about legal logistics. My dad, who used to be practical like me, is now talking about repairing the soul of a broken child. My mom actually said, "You may not have hit him, but you hit his sense of belonging." That one pissed me off. I spent years giving him structure while everyone else was too soft to call him out. So what am I left with? Quiet nights, no arguing, no slammed doors. I sleep through the night without wondering what fight awaits in the morning. My apartment is calm, but it's quiet in a way that makes people online think they've won because now they can say, "See, he pushed everyone away." Reality is, I was pushed away too, not for abuse, but for not matching the fantasy of the endlessly forgiving father everyone wanted me to be. Do I regret going on that trip without him? No. That moment was the line that defined everything. Everyone showed their side. Everyone chose their narrative. And guess what? Even after all the chaos, I still believe this. Actions have consequences. People hate that when it applies to kids, because it's easier to blame strict parenting than admit some kids spiral no matter what. So yeah, I lost my son, then my marriage, and maybe eventually my daughter if my wife poisons her enough. But I didn't lie. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I didn't beat him or abandon him on the streets. I didn't rewrite history for sympathy. I've stayed honest, even when honesty cost me everything. If Reddit wants a villain, fine. I'll be your villain. But don't pretend I didn't tell the truth about how it all went down. So go ahead, judge the ending. But don't say I changed. Because I didn't. Second story. I fainted from overworking in front of my husband, and he just left me there and went to sleep. Then ordered me to cook for him, claimed I'm lazy and don't require any medical checkup. I told his mom, and she is sorry for her baby boy because he had to worry because of me. We've been married for a few years and have a baby. We had relationship issues after the baby, but I thought we had resolved them, and he promised he would be better and all that. He did get better. He did his share around the house, and house chores aren't a big issue because he just does what needs to be done without complaint or comment. But something at the back of my head felt off. I never really explored the nagging feeling, but now I realize that he never showed me any extra care. In fact, he gets upset or easily frustrated with me if I cause any extra inconvenience. Not sure how I didn't notice until now. So 2 days ago, I think I got sick. I was feeling that gross thick skin feeling and vertigo. Lightheaded. I don't know, and by night I was shivering and freezing. I was still able to function, so I didn't think much of it. I complained to my husband about it, and then we went to sleep. Yesterday, I woke up feeling like my bones were lead. I don't know how I functioned yesterday, but it felt like autopilot. My boss messaged me with some tasks, so I did them on my phone before my baby woke up. Rolled out of bed and somehow took my sister to school. Came back and worked some more. Usually I have energy to flip between being a mom and working. But yesterday I just lay on the floor to work while my 1-year-old watched some MS Rachel. Then I had to pick up my sister from school, come home to make dinner. And by the time my husband came home, I felt dead on my feet. Anytime I moved, it felt like I was lagging and my body couldn't keep up. I told my husband this a few times. We ate. I put away the leftovers and put the baby to sleep while my husband went to his office to do some quick work. After this, I don't really remember because my brain was foggy. I found myself in his office. We exchanged a few words, but I don't remember what. And the next thing I knew, I woke up alone in his office on the floor. I felt so heavy and out of it. It took so much effort to get up. But when I got out, all the lights were off. The kitchen was not touched, and he was in bed. I just stood in the kitchen and realized that he just doesn't care. I already knew he wasn't going to clean the kitchen tomorrow, and that he didn't care I felt off. I had a busy day planned, and I didn't have time to wash all the dishes the next day. So I loaded the dishwasher and then went to bed. I lay down, and 5 minutes later, my husband very angrily told me to turn off the lights in the kitchen. At this point, I had no energy to deal with him, so I ignored him and fell asleep. The next morning, today, I woke up covered in sweat, but that gross feeling was gone. That's when I realized that I was sick. My husband was upset with me. He wouldn't talk or look at me and was stomping around. I tried to ask him about yesterday, but he just grumbled something about me, confusing him. Everything from yesterday caught up, and I just can't see him the same. I realized that he has never taken care of me or done anything that was inconvenient for him. I've been sick before, and every time it's the same thing. He gets upset at me somehow. After I had a baby, he was upset that nothing was kept up around the house, yet got angry with me when I fainted from overexertion at 2 weeks postpartum. I remember him yelling at me that I did this to myself, and it's my fault for not taking care of myself, even though just 2 days before, he was telling me that he was angry with me for not keeping up with laundry, and that I needed to clean the kitchen because it was starting to smell, and he didn't want to cook anymore. Don't even get me started on how he never woke up at night. All these memories hit me, and I just am disgusted by him. How did I not see this? What do I even do? I'm going to stop here before the post gets too long. Edit. He just texted me saying he's beat and could barely brush his teeth this morning. I don't even know what to respond. I can't believe I took care of this man every time he got sick and after 2 surgeries. Comments. Comment 1. Wait. You passed out in front of him, and he just left you lying on the floor. I'm usually a work on things advice giver, but not here. Get a lawyer and figure out how to get out of there. OP. That's the part I'm a little confused about. I have no idea what happened. I've only fainted once before, so I wonder if I just lay on the floor. He wouldn't talk to me this morning, and I kind of don't care to find out because it doesn't really matter. He left me there anyway. Comment 2. Read your post, reread it again, and print a copy and hang it on the wall if you need to. This man does not care about you, and you know that. At least go stay with family or friends for a few days to get help with the baby while you recover and get your head together. Comment 3. Girl, you are in danger. You passed out and don't even remember what happened. You literally could have died there. Losing consciousness for a longer period of time is highly concerning. Again, you could have died. And your husband did not only refuse to call an ambulance, but he also actively ignored you in a dire condition. And that would be the best case. The worst case would be that he actively did something to cause this. You have no memory, after all. This is too dangerous to talk it out. Please, get your kid and some belongings and leave. Go to your parents, friends, or a women's shelter. Get checked out by a doctor. Ask them if your fainting could be due to trauma. And most important, don't tell him that you are leaving. Pregnant women and women who just gave birth are at the highest risk of getting killed by their partners. He already showed you that he wouldn't care if you died. No sane person leaves someone unconscious on the floor. Update. Hi, so I'm still alive. I had a surprising number of people message me a week or two ago. And it's very kind of you people to care. I'll go right into what happened. I went to the hospital that day, since a shocking percentage of people suspected he could have messed with something. But no. The doctor said nothing came up. But he did say I had high blood pressure and recommended me to a cardiologist. I still have a month left before the appointment. When my husband got home from work, he was acting like everything was normal. I wanted to see if he would inquire at all about my faint the night prior. But nothing. So after the baby was settled for the night, I asked him why I woke up alone in his office. He got instantly angry with me and seemed annoyed I even brought it up. He said that I was acting confusing, and what was he supposed to do? I should have told him what I wanted him to do. I told him about my visit to the hospital, and he said that going to the hospital is a little much. I told him the doctor said I am showing signs of heart issues, likely caused by stress. He blew up on me, yelling that I'm causing my own early grave, and that it's my fault for not taking care of myself. With that, he closed himself in the room, leaving me to clean up after dinner alone again. Except I decided that I wouldn't, so I went on the couch and watched a movie. He came out, suddenly friendly and flirty. He tried to lie with me and asked what I was doing. He kept trying to act cute, and when I wasn't showing much response to it, he got angry and stormed off, locking me out of the bedroom. The next morning, I woke up to him slamming around the kitchen and cussing about how I couldn't even properly clean the kitchen. I just went to the bedroom and went back to sleep, if you can call it that, because he kept doing things to keep me awake. He complained later that day about how he was so hungry because I didn't make him breakfast or lunch. I gave myself a break day. I didn't work, didn't focus on the house. I was just a mum and spent time with our baby. I went to the park, to the library, and to my in-laws. I tried to talk to her about the heart thing, and she responded with, "Poor husband's name. He's probably going to stress about this." That's when I realized I couldn't do this anymore. I got pizza for dinner and got home right after my husband. He was not happy, and it was different this time. I tried to ignore his obvious tension. He cleaned the kitchen very loudly and was muttering under his breath. I washed up our daughter and put her to bed, trying not to feel anxious. When I came out, he started talking very aggressively about how I've been letting myself get lazy and he won't take my lack of effort. A relationship is a two-way street, he said. I started yelling back about how I cook, clean, manage his child, and work at the same time. So how is it that I'm the one that's lazy when he keeps expecting me to do more things too? Things escalated, and he started throwing dishes at me. When he ran out of things to throw, he chalked me. Then he left the house, and I called the police. My baby was woken up. The neighbors were there because they heard yelling and glass breaking. It was chaos. When he came back, he tried to say I did everything. Even the bruises around my neck were self-inflicted, apparently. I'm still trying to process everything. It all happened so fast. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had just sucked it up and didn't rebel. Would our relationship be fine? I have my first therapy session scheduled for next Tuesday, so I guess I'll talk all about it then. My husband is at his mom's now. I'm at my grandmother's for now and have almost all my stuff out of our apartment. We have a temporary restraining order. The official hearing is tomorrow morning. I'm scared if I'm honest. I haven't seen him since that night. My daughter keeps asking me where Dad is, and I don't know what to tell her. There's my update. I feel so numb to it all. I can probably type much more that happened, but it already feels so long. Plus, I don't want to cry again. Edit. I reread this all, and I sound like a big whiny baby. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I promise I don't sound like this in person. I also wanted to add a thought. I don't know if I would have called the police and all if I hadn't posted before. I honestly don't know. This is the scariest thing he's done to me, but he's done plenty of other things before. When I originally posted, it was more of a vent post. All your caring, kind thoughts moved me. It gave me the little push I needed. I only have my little sister and my grandmother. I can't tell my grandmother any of these details because she's too frail and sensitive. My dad was an alcoholic and died while driving under the influence. My mum left us after that for a guy in Russia. I don't know how she's doing, but she used to treat us very poorly, so I don't really care. The point is, thank you all. The responses here are too kind, and I don't even know what to say. Comments. Comment 1. Okay? But did you go to the ER after being chalk? If not, you need to go ASAP, because chalking can cause serious internal injuries and complications that can kill you days after the fact. Please get checked out right away and thoroughly document every injury. And please press charges against this man. He wanted to unalive you. And he very well could have if he hadn't chickened out and run away at the last minute. Also, documenting the physical violence and pressing charges will help you get and keep sole custody of your daughter. This man cannot be trusted with your child after his unhinged display of brute violence. The odds of him harming her to get back at you are too great. OP. Yes, I definitely did. That was enough proof for the temporary restraining order in my state, thankfully. One of the nurses was tearing up when she was taking my vitals and helped calm me and my baby down. She gave me some good advice on how to proceed, and I appreciate it every day. I've been talking to a lawyer my grandma knows, and I have some past proof of other incidents that should help me with my case too. Comment 2. Why didn't the police arrest him when they saw the bruises on your neck and the broken dishes? I think the police should have arrested him on DV charges. OP. He did. But his mum got him out somehow 2 days later. I'm honestly surprised they even arrested him, because they were being very rude to me aside from a woman officer. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.